Have you ever experienced happily going to browse the internet and suddenly a pop-up box shows up? Did you feel like laughing or did you feel like smashing the screen? Later in this video, we will be discussing about different moods and emotions that drive consumers' behavior. A consumer's mood can serve as a type of frame that can transfer into product value judgments. For example, when a person is evaluating alternative vacation sites, the person tends to rate sites more favorable when he or she is evaluating in a good mood, as opposed to when he or she is in a bad mood. Here, consumers make mood-congruent judgments, an evaluation in which the value of a target is influenced in a consistent way by one's mood. Affect is another term used to represent the feelings a consumer experiences during the consumption process. Going back to the example, a person looking for an alternative vacation sites who prefer to use Skyscanner or traveling application than AirAsia traveling agency represent the feelings a consumer has about a particular service, which is consumer affect. Economic measures offer the greatest validity in representing consumers' emotions. Autonomic measures are those responses that are automatically recorded based on either automatic visceral reactions or neurological brain activity. Examples include sweating in a physiological response or lie detector test, heart rate monitoring, and brain imaging or MRI. These examples can document activity in areas of the brain responsible for certain specific emotions. However, many different options exist for applying self-report measures, and each option is usually based on a different perspective of emotion theory. One of the most commonly applied ways to assess one's emotional state is by using the PANAS or PANAS. PANAS or PANAS stands for Positive Affect, Negative Affect Scale, and allows respondents to self-report the extent to which they feel one of 20 emotional adjectives, including happy, inspired, sad, upset, and the like. A consumer rating the feelings experienced when a pop-up box shows up on an electronics retail website. This situation is quite simple. A situation like this, positive and negative emotions tend to be opposites. If people have bad feelings during the experience, they are unlikely to have any good feelings. PAD or PAD is an acronym that stands for Pleasure Arousal Dominance. Going back to the situation of a consumer rating the feelings experienced when a pop-up box shows up on an electronics retail website. The consumer feels lower control over it, which then leads the situational influences to play a greater role in shaping the consumer's behavior. Emotional involvement can make a consumer appear irrational. For example, consider the amount of money and time a fan will spend following his or her idol. Some spend hundreds of thousands used only to represent themselves as a fan of the specific idol. This consumer, therefore, is deeply and emotionally involved with the idol and in many ways becomes one with the idol. All consumers can probably relate to the experience or even just the thought of experiencing a good concert of an idol so much that one loses awareness of time passing. When this occurs, a consumer has achieved a state of flow, which is the extremely high emotional involvement in which a consumer is engrossed in the activity. Emotions can be useful in determining the most appropriate reactions to events. In a marketing concept, a service crew of a fast food chain, for example, receive a complaint from a customer saying that the crew is so slow and it makes the customer's head ache, which then leads other people to laugh at the crew. A crew who immediately talked back as a signification that he or she was hurt and got mad represents emotional expressiveness. The extent to which a consumer shows outward behavior signs and otherwise react obviously to emotional experiences. However, a crew who is capable to control his or her emotions, shows empathy to the customer, maintains a positive attitude, and stay productive represents emotional intelligence, which is the awareness of the emotions experienced in a given situation and the ability to control reactions to these emotions. You've probably heard the line, "That which we call a rose by any other name will smell as sweet." Shakespeare asserts here then that a name doesn't matter. It's what the thing or concept really is. Even if we cease to call a rose, we could still smell its fragrance, feel its velvety petals, and be pricked by its thorns. I read the word rose. Human communication will become extremely tricky if we all associated completely different meanings with a given vocabulary word. If you said mango when I saw a rose, and we were trying to describe the same thing, you can see where we'd have a problem. Semantics means the meaning and interpretation of words, signs, and sentence structure. Semantics largely determine our reading comprehension, how we understand others, and even what decisions we make as a result of our interpretations. Semantics can also refer to the branch of study within linguistics that deals with the language and how we understand meaning. This has been a particularly interesting field for philosophers as they debate the essence of meaning, how we build meaning, how we share meaning with others, and how meaning changes over time. Have you ever wondered why you remember certain things that seem to coincide with how you are feeling? This lesson will explain how the mood congruency recall effect influences your memory and other parts of your day-to-day life. It is actually a psychological phenomenon in which a person tends to remember information that is consistent with their particular mood. People also tend to recall memories that coincide with the mood they are experiencing at a certain time. In simpler terms, if you are in a happy mood, you are more likely to recall happy memories. Whereas, if you are sad, you are more likely to remember sad and depressing events. Or, if you are angry when you are learning, you are less likely to remember the positive concepts, but you are more likely to focus on the negative ideas. In this example, you and a friend are going to the movies together to see the latest blockbuster hit, a film about a man who loses the love of his life only to find the same woman 20 years later. The man and woman reconnect and marry in the end, but throughout the movie, the trials and tribulations they experience are documented. Now, let's set the stage a bit further. You just got out of a 5-year relationship, so you are a bit sour on the whole idea of love. Your friend, however, just met a remarkable new guy she can't stop gushing about. Will this affect what you both choose to focus on or remember from the movie? Nostalgia refers to a regretful memory or sweet recollection of something or someone from the past. It is also used to describe homesickness, melancholy, or yearning. Nostalgia expresses a sentimental longing for something personal which has been left behind. It is most commonly used to convey a remembrance of the good old days. For example, when obese people look at pictures of themselves when they were slimmer, they get overcome with nostalgia. Schema-based affect are emotions that become stored as part of the meaning for a category or a schema. For example, a consumer who fears going to a dentist can actually experience true nervousness and apprehension simply by thinking about a visit to the dentist. This makes the dentist visit schema active. However, let's face it, getting laughed at can be painful. Going back to the crew who was laughed at for getting a complaint from a customer. This situation leads to the self-conscious emotions of the crew. That includes pride, embarrassment, guilt, regret, and shame. Now, let's add another person in this situation. As a coworker, you've witnessed everything that happened. After all the embarrassment that your coworker received, he or she still managed to put a smile on his or her face. This then leads you to be affected and put a smile on your face as well. This situation is called emotional contagion, wherein an emotional display of one person influences the emotional state of a bystander. But this situation is also part of your aesthetic labor, which deals specifically with employees who must carefully manage their own personal appearance as a requisite to performing their job well and fitting what managers see as the stereotype for their particular company's service. This influence is not only for the co-workers, but also for everyone in the place where the situation happens. Let's say another customer have witnessed everything but got too guilty about, in which then leads him or her to give her own complaint about the product being overcooked. This kind of complaint will lead other people to experience product contamination or the diminished positive feelings that they have about the product because of how another consumer has handled the product. These situations are partly the reason why most service companies prefer employees with high emotional intelligence, because this situation involves emotional labor, which are the efforts put forth by service workers who have to overtly manage their own emotional displays as part of the requirements of the job.